simple. Okay. Now, try to understand this question. And if you come up with an idea, that would be fine, right? So try to read, understand, and you come up with the idea what is the method we have to use to solve this problem.
So Hardy-Weinberg's equation.
Yeah, we can use Hardy-Weinberg equation, but they have never mentioned anything like that here. It's a bit difficult. Only thing is, if easily we can spot if you want to find percentage of heterozygous, like when they ask to find percentage of heterozygous, then uh, this gives some idea. Okay, this could be the Hardy-Weinberg principle we have to use, because mostly we are try to find the within a population the heterozygous percentage. Otherwise, most of the Hardy-Weinberg question they are giving as I assume this is according to Hardy-Weinberg, then calculate this one, I think. So here was nothing mentioned. So we have only one tool. Again, we can go for the Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. And the other thing is, uh, when we talk about the Mendelian characteristics in human, so most of the characteristics are dominant. Most of the characteristics are dominant. And here it says the dimple is a recessive character, which is so it's more dominant, and when it have the trait like homozygous recessive, double recessive, dimple is a double recessive Mendelian character. So that means if we use the simple D as a letter, simple D, and this phenotype is dimple. Can you try to get the answer, or should we do it? Would you try?
So we can say B squared is equal to 2.25 root. So,
Hmm?
we can say B squared, put the equation, and we can say that the last term B squared is equal to 2.25 root. No, sir.
Yes, this number we have to take 2 point. An equation is also not given here because this is MCQ, and they haven't given equation that time. 2.25. This one represent this genotype. That means according to the Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium, P squared 2PQ plus Q squared equal 1. So what we learn, uh, the Q squared is exactly 2.25 divided by 100 equal this. So we can now write Q squared is 2.25 divided by 100. Now can you find the answer?
So answer is 2.
This one?
Yeah, I guess.
So let's see what is Q then, right? So we have to find the Q. So you should use the calculator for this one. Or if you don't use calculator, 2 and 20, 22, 25. So
1.5.
this should be 10. 25 into 25, the square.
1.5, sir.
No, 25. 15, 15, okay. 15, 15. 15, 15. Yes, 1.5. So then Q is 0.15. Then we can find P. P plus Q equal 1. Then Q is 0.15. P is 0.85, right?
Yes.
Okay. But they ask percentage of heterozygous. So we have to find percentage of heterozygous, not the homozygous one. So percentages of heterozygous is this 2 times 0.15, 0.85. So then 0.85 multiplied by 0.30. So 255. This is the one, and if you multiply by as a percentage to 100 is 25.5, right?
Yes.
So fifth one is the correct one. So if you want to find the percentage of homozygous dominant, then we have to get this value. That is 0.85 squared. But I didn't find many questions like this over the last like 20 years of papers. This is one question I found. There may be other questions we can get later, but I send you a tutorial, right, with more questions.
Yes.
So you can practice this, and we will check some of the question later, right? Okay, now we are coming to the last section we discussed last week. All the concept, genetic concept, evolution, and the natural selection, everything belongs to the natural process. Now we are going to the artificial breeding, breeding method. Why we want artificial breeding system? Number one is the population increasing. We need to provide sustainable food. That means without harming the environment, we need to provide enough food for the growing population. And we discussed we have several approach. We can increase the quantity of the food, I mean the yield, and also we can maintain the quality of the food. So maintain the quality of the food. We can also reduce the toxicity of the food. So we last week discussed the yield increase, number one, quality increase. We can also reduce the toxicities, and we can also increase the digestibility of the food. And further, we can add rest of the thing. That is, we can go for the amount, that's the yield of the food, and also tolerance of the food, the crops. So we can improve the tolerance of the crops for different environmental conditions, and we can also maintain the quality for end user requirement. So this is the aim of the breeding techniques: quality, quantity, reduce toxicity, digestibility, and tolerance of the food crops, and also end user requirement. That means the quality of the food matters at the end. Taste, appearance should be important. And next thing is aesthetic value. Aesthetic value is very important, that we have to keep the appearance of the phenotype that people like it. So these are the main requirement. Some of the things, we can argue like, okay, if you want to breed dogs, how these can help a world growing population to provide the food. But we are handling everything in one bucket. All the breeding techniques, that is for the well-being of a human, or amount of food, increase the food supply, all the factors we consider. It's not just restricted to the crops and just animal only for food, but other well-being of the human. Because aesthetic value is the appearance of the animal, like when we have pets, ornamental fish, any birds or pets, any kind of animals or plants, flowers. That's a big business in the world. So breeding techniques are going to enhance the appearance of this kind of things in plant and animal. So breeding techniques also used for the well-being of a human, making animals and plants more attractive to keep. So these are the whole aim we discussed, why we have to go for artificial breeding. So we are completely changing from natural selection to artificial selection. So we have to keep in mind what is the reasons that we change to artificial selection. Okay, so we start then different artificial breeding system, and what is the genetic background of this artificial breeding system at last. Right now, currently, we have several breeding system, main breeding system. Then we come under this artificial selection or selective breeding. Why it is called artificial? Number one reason is it is a man-made event, human involved. So man-made event, and the crops or animals are selected by human, not the nature. This is the main concept of selective breeding. And why we do selective breedings, we can list all the 5-6 factors under that to increase the quality, increase the quantity, reduce the toxicity, increase the digestibility, and end user requirement, appearance, and the quality of the food, and aesthetic values. Like these are all 7-8 factors which cause human to select crops and animals. For example, we can understand the concept very simple way. Even in the history, the farmers, they select the plants which is giving high yield. So then they use these higher yielding plants for the next cultivation. So this is something came with the farming. Like many years back, probably we can think human never started the farming. But at one point in the history, they started farming. From the day they started the farming, they used this method to select the better quality crops and animal for the next sessions. But when it comes to the selective breeding, crops are more easy to handle than animals. Even today, there are many restrictions for animal breedings, but plants, there is not much restrictions. Somehow at one point, when the technology increased, these methods are streamlined and these methods are well established, and the methods are completely separated into different methods, and we are learning these methods now. So that is the main goal of the selective breeding. So how many methods we have? How many breeding methods we have? So if the selected breeding is this blue color shaded area is the plant, and then after that outcome is the many plants come under this category. They're bigger. And again, they select a bigger one for the next session. Finally, all plants get bigger and higher yield. Then they can keep on growing this for the next session. Now, when it comes to this old historical method, this is also not enough now. So we realize now this method is not enough. We have to go for even more different manipulations. This method, farmers select the best one, is little bit still okay with natural selection. But we are completely deviating from natural selection by our breeding methods. Now, how many breeding methods we have? We have 4 breeding methods. So we have 4 breeding methods, and here you can see these 4 breeding methods. The first breeding method is inbreeding. So we're going to learn the inbreeding method. Second, we're going to learn outbreeding. Third one, hybrid. Last one, interspecific breeding. Okay, inbreeding, outbreeding, hybrid breeding, and interspecific breeding. So currently, these 4 methods are used as selective breeding methods. So we take one by one and we try to understand how they do it, what is the principle of breeding, and what is the disadvantage and advantage of breedings. Okay. We start first